Hello everyone. GetAmazingProfits revolutionary breakthrough software uses proprietary sleep sales technology to generate sales while you're comfortable tucked in your bed or out celebrating with friends.
As a free bonus for just being here, GetAmazingProfits will give you a free gift worth $997. It's actually worth thousands more, when you take into account that everything is all done for you, so there's nothing here for you to lose, and actually with the ability to get AmazingProfits free bonus, you have everything to gain.
Now in today's market, where you have a strong stock market, a strong real estate market.
It's going to crash. We're on a depression right now. Let me just say this much. Markets go up and markets come down. It's coming down. Then we're going into depression. And then we go into revolution.
Before we jump into the interview, I want to give you a little warning because you are going to hear things that make you feel uncomfortable. Now, not everything that Robert and I talk about is my opinion, and you might not agree with everything, which is fine. But everything that we talk about is from his life experiences and from his point of view that you can learn from. And there's some cussing. So with that, let's jump into it. What's up, everybody? I am Jaspreet Singh from theMinorityMindset.com, and today we're sitting down with the one and only Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, which has been sold over, 41 million times now?
Who knows anymore?
I want to start by talking about the current state of the economy, because I think millennials have gone through a very crazy 2000s. We started off with the 2000 stock market .com bubble crash. Going to 2008, we had the real estate meltdown, which essentially almost brought down the entire financial system, a once-in-a-lifetime crash. Then come 2020, we had another once-in-a-lifetime pandemic crash. And now it looks like a lot of experts are saying that the money printing and stimulus and other efforts by the government were able to get us out of this pandemic and recession. So I want to get your take on this. How are we doing as an economy right now?
The scientific financial term is we're screwed. I went to military school. So I graduated in '69. I went to flight school in Florida. I was flying in Vietnam. And the reason I tell you all that is because suddenly one of the most valuable courses I took at the academy was Marx, Lenin, Mao, Hitler, Stalin, Lenin, and I'm flying, I take off from the carrier. I was a gunship pilot, helicopter gunship, so we'd fly escort we'd fly with the troop transport helicopters. So there was always like two gunships escorting the troops into battle. And that was the first time I saw history of what I was taught at the academy in real life. I went, oh my God, this stuff about Marx, Lenin, Mao, Stalin, Hitler is true.
What is that? I mean, for someone who's unfamiliar with Marxism, what is that?
Well, Marx had one thing. He said it was the abolition of private property. In other words, we could own nothing. And as a capitalist, that kind of upsets me a bit, So they wanted to take all of our private property away, and it would then go to the state. And that's why when you study communism and Marxism, it's a centralized economy. It's central. It's called, in military terms, it's called command and control. I went to military school. So it's a command and control economy where the government tells you everything. And so that's why the Federal Reserve Bank is part of a communist thing. It's a central bank. And the central bank is not American. It's not a bank. And there's no reserves in it. And it's the Fed today, in 2021, is the third central bank. And for history, since Jefferson and those guys, they kept saying we cannot have central banks. But because our academic system is basically Marxist, most school teachers are Marxists, they just don't know it because they didn't study Marx like I did.
So you're saying our school system teaches communism?
Yes. And most people don't know that because they don't tell you that. Just like they didn't tell you that my family was locked up in concentration camps.
Wow.
They hide all that. I've been called a racist so many times. I go, well, how would you know if I'm a racist or not? But the worst thing was I was called a white supremacist. And I looked in the mirror and I went, no, I'm still not white. So it's so crazy right now. Man, this is nuts right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, flying along the beaches of Vietnam, I saw history. And history is today. You know, so we're here in Scottsdale, Arizona. And I was driving past the Scottsdale Fashion Market. It was all boarded up. It was burned, attacked under the name of Black Lives Matter. I'm going, well, Marx and Hitler, as you know, were racists. And so this whole thing about what I was taught at the academy, I went to the Merchant Marine Academy in New York. I had appointments to Naval Academy and Merchant Marine Academy, but I took Merchant Marine Academy because we're the highest paid graduates in the world. You know, $120K a year was a lot of money back in 1969.
Oh yeah, it's still a lot of money now.
I'm a capitalist. I don't have a job. I don't have a paycheck. It's so opposite because that was my rich dad teaching me, and my poor dad said, get a safe, secure job. So the mindsets are completely opposite.
Yeah.
And so that's why, excuse me, when I was watching your program and you're telling me about your dad says become a doctor, I was just cracking up because Asian culture were Asians.
Yeah.
You know? And the most important thing is you become a doctor, and then I'm flunking out of school left and right because I'm a dumb shit. And then my mother says, my mother was a registered nurse. She says, oh, they call me Bobby. Bobby, become a doctor. And my father says, he's a dumb shit. He's flunking out of school. I flunked out of school twice because I can't read and write. Now, ironically, my book is Rich Dad Poor Dad is number 20 in the world.
You can't read and write, yet you're a best-selling author.
Correct. It's not that I couldn't read or write. The teacher didn't like what I said. What I wrote, you know, they forced me to read these stupid books. And I said, these are horrible books. These are horrible books. You know, why am I supposed F. So my chances of going to college are almost none. You know, if you can't get into University of Hawaii, which University of Hawaii turned me down too. So here I'm like 16 years old, 17 years old. I'm a surfer, you know, in Hawaii and all this stuff. And I'm going, so my poor dad, the PhD, poor, helpless, desperate, says to me, he says, I'm not going to pay for your college education. I said, well, I didn't expect you to. Because, you know, that's, you know, in the Asian family, that's what he's supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And I said, I don't want you to. I can get my way through school. So that's why I applied to a Naval Academy at Annapolis, and I applied to Kings Point at Kings Point, New York, because I really did want to go to sea. You know, the only A subject I ever got was in wood shop. I built a boat. Other kids were building salad bowls for mommy and daddy. And I built an 8-foot El Toro racing class boat. My degree is in naval architecture, which I've never used.
That's crazy. So, I mean, if we jump into the school system, you know, exactly what you're saying. My parents were immigrants, came to this country with next to nothing. My dad came to this country with $100 or less than $100. Didn't know the culture, didn't know the people, didn't know how things worked, but he bust his butt. And for him, my parents, you know, the whole American dream was work hard, become successful. And they didn't grow up with any financial education. And so my parents, like a lot of Indian immigrants, said that if you want to become successful, you need to follow the system. Study hard in school, get good grades, become a doctor. My dad used to actually tell me that when you're in school, don't worry about English, don't worry about social studies and all that. Focus on math and science, because that's what you need to become a doctor. Work on those two things, and if you do that, you will become a doctor. If you become a doctor, you'll make a big salary. If you make a big salary, you'll be able to save a lot of money, and if you can save a lot of money, you will be wealthy. How do you know any better? Why don't they teach this in school?
Because it's a Marxist system. I hate to say that. If you study Marx, Lenin, Stalin, Hitler, and Mao, the central bank is Marx. And Lenin said, if you want to destroy the economy, you want to destroy capitalism, debauch the currency. So in 1971, just before I went to Vietnam, Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. But they don't teach you that. You see, our system is communist. And I hate to say that because I'm a Marine. I went to Vietnam twice. I fought for this country, went to military school. Like I said, my family were locked in internment camps. And today they're talking about reparations for the blacks. I mean, give me a break. My family didn't get reparations. They took all their land, they took their houses, they took everything from them. But what history doesn't tell you is that Hitler rose to power on reparations. Why don't they teach us that stuff? So that's why I learned at military school. So today I hear all the blacks talking, man, racism is terrible. You've experienced it, I've experienced it, And racism is, it's a sin of the soul, spiritual. It's spiritual to judge a man or a woman by their skin. That's horrible. But anyway, if you study Marx, Lenin, Hitler, and Mao, you'll see it all over the school system. That's what today's postmodernist education, and postmodernist education actually started in 1930. When out of the Frankfurt School in Germany, they moved over to Columbia University. And Columbia University is the headquarters for Marxism. But they don't tell you that. And so the Teachers College at Columbia University is where the Frankfurt School set up in 1930, which is Marxism.
Wow. And another thing that I found was really interesting, I was reading something that you wrote, because millennials nowadays, young people, one of their biggest liabilities.
Student loans.
Student loans.
Yep.
And
that was Obama. Obama's a hardcore Marxist. I'm not a racist by calling him that, but he is. Look at Obamacare. Was Stalin who said, medicine is the archstone of socialism, socialized medicine.
Wow.
And education fits into that same category. That's why, going back to what you and I are taught.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting in school with all these rich white kids in Hawaii, right? Just because of the way the lines fell and, the school districts and all this.
Yeah. My
classmates are all these white guys who are rich. And I'm this Asian guy who's poor. And my old man, poor dad, PhD, poor, helpless, desperate, is saying, you've got to get a high-paying job, as a school teacher. I said, Dad, you're still not rich. And so I wanted to know why the white guys were rich and the Asian guys were poor.
Yeah.
And then India, as you know, is those same English sons of a bitches who took over India. The British Empire, the sun never sets on the British Empire. Remember those days?
Yeah, so you talk about August 15th, 1971, worst day for the dollar.
Yeah.
What's funny is my grandfather, as I was growing up, told me about how August 15th was the day that he lost faith in the government.
Yep.
My family is from a state in India called Punjab. And when that partition happened in 1947,
right,
they split up the state of Punjab, and the government lied to the people in Punjab.
Correct.
People who were living there, my family.
Yeah.
And so my grandparents, when they found out that the line was not going to be where it was, my grandparents lost everything. They lost their home. They lost family members. My grandfather saw people being killed. And that happened on August 15th, 1947. And then 24 years later, the same day, the United States
took the dollar off the gold standard. Nixon did.
That's crazy.
As not only that, is when I went to military school. So we studied different types of history. You look at the American flag, it's the flag of the British East India Company. The sun never sets on the British Empire. So Hawaii was a British Empire, India, Australia, New Zealand, America. It's really interesting if you study history.
It is.
Not from the academic side.
They probably call you a conspiracy theorist.
Of course.
Are you?
No, I'm a historian. I like history. But see, when I came back from Vietnam in 1973, I got spit on, I got hit by eggs and all this by these hippies who went to the Woodstock generation, my own, baby boom generation. And here I am. I just lost a lot of friends and all this. We're fighting, we're killing communists in Vietnam. It was horrible. Who's killed the most people in history? Communists. And that's who we're fighting. So Americans fight against people who murder people. So the sad thing about it is that we have a history that's not history. It's massaged. It's fabricated.
Well, they say the winners write the history books.
Correct. And so that's why, look at the American flag. It's the flag. That's why I love talking to you, because we're brothers here. Hawaii was taken over by the English. India was taken over by Australia, South Africa. It's the sun never sets in the British Empire. Well, why don't they teach us that stuff? Why is the American flag? And they say, "Oh, Betsy Ross sewed it." Bullshit. Look at the the flag of the British East India Company, you'll see the American flag. I'm trying to say something. 1930, the Frankfurt School out of Germany, which was Marxist, moved to Columbia University Teachers College. And that's where it started, in America. I'm a student of history. It's like, there was a guy named General Patton. We studied the great generals. Patton was a great general because he led from the front. Most generals led from the bunker, in the rear. That's why Biden, and he ran for president, he was hiding in his basement. He's a bunker guy. And Trump ran from the front. He had millions of people cheering and screaming for them. But the way it's run now is, I call him Basement Biden. He hides in his basement. He doesn't say crap. And Trump loses.
So are you not happy with the way that President Biden is running the country?
What happened in Afghanistan is treason. All of those weapons that were taken, $850 billion worth of it, is now going to be used against the state of Israel. It's one of our last allies in that area. I'm a military guy. I have killed people. I've had my friends killed. And Americans sit here and just go, oh, what's on YouTube tonight? Or what's on television? And we sit here with a sanitized, sterilized education. So I sit in this room here, and you can look around. I call this a fishbowl, but these are my heroes here, the people that stood up.
You have Albert Einstein, Martin
Luther King, Bobby Kennedy, Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, Nez Perce, Chief Joseph, the Nez Perce Indians. These guys stood up. They got cut down also. So I refuse to be cut down. You can come in. People have tried to kill me before. I don't really care. In Vietnam,
you're not worried about that? You're not worried
Vietnam,
about
I went down 3 times. They couldn't kill me there. So I'm just speaking out. And this is the time now. Because I think some people, about probably 2 out of 10, 20%, realize that something's wrong in America. And I'm a student of Karl Marx, 1848. He and Engels wrote a book called The Communist Manifesto. The last line in the Communist Manifesto is the abolition of property. No private property. Everything is owned by the state. And the way they get you through that is by inflation and taxation. They're both taxes. So Biden just raised the taxes on doctors, I think 20%. I think It's kind of funny. But now 50% of a doctor's income goes to taxes. And a capitalist like me pays no taxes. Trump pays no taxes. And it angers people. Instead of saying, well, how do you guys do that? I mean, how can I sit here talking to you and tell people I don't pay taxes? How come I'm not taken off to jail?
Yeah, aren't you a greedy, rich, horrible human being for not paying taxes?
I like my money. I don't want those communists in Washington, D.C. to take my money. I don't like them taking my money. I don't like being manipulated by the government, which is Marxist.
But is it you that's doing something wrong? I mean, you're not doing anything illegal. The tax code
Would I be telling you I don't pay taxes if I was a criminal?
I went to law school, obviously, because when my parents found out that I wasn't smart enough to be a doctor, they were like, you have to at least become an attorney.
And did they teach you about tax?
They did. Well, kind of.
How to not pay tax?
Not really.
Okay, that's what they didn't teach you that
But
either.
I did read your book before going into law school. So I tried to focus my law on business and tax law. And my tax professor, very interesting, before the first day of class, sent out an article about how rich people legally evade taxes.
There's a difference between evade and avoid, isn't there?
Yeah, and it was very interesting.
What's the difference between evade and avoid as an attorney?
Well, avoid, you're doing it legally. Evade, you're doing
Illegal.
something wrong.
Yes. What I do is I avoid, I don't evade. Corporate law comes out of Amsterdam. You know that, right? Mm-hmm. But they don't teach you that stuff. They teach you American, but not international law.
And we're going into a global economy more and more every single day. And going back to the topic of student loans, though, because the thing that I've wanted to mention that I thought was so interesting was that the biggest liability for so many Americans nowadays are student loans.
Yeah.
But you said the biggest asset for the United States government are student loans.
Yes.
How does that make any sense that so many people are drowning in debt? They can't save money, or they can't invest money, or they can't build wealth because of this liability that is making the government richer.
Corporate law comes out of Amsterdam. And in 1930, the Frankfurt School out of Berlin moved to Columbia University, the Teachers College. And that went into our educational system. Today it's called postmodernist education. Postmodernist education is based on opinion and emotion. STEM, science, technology, education, engineering, and math is out. So it's just based upon emotion and opinion. So here I'm quoting you history, and I'm telling you the law, but people get all emotional and reactionary and call me a crook, a capitalist, and all that. Well, that's what our schools are teaching us. That's why I hate to say this. All school teachers are Marxist, but they never studied history. They don't know what they're teaching. So in 1971, Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. What does that mean? We could print as much money as we could. That meant the only way the economy could expand was through debt and taxes. Okay? If you understand that, so that's why when the American consumer got racked up with debt and the US government is racked up in debt, the next person that wanted the money were the teachers' unions. And so that's why Obama passed that student loan stuff. And now our young people are strapped in debt because that's the only way the economy can expand is through debt. So we screw our young people, then they accuse people like me of being a conspiracy theorist. But I studied history.
In one of your recent books, Fake, you inspired me to pull out a $100 bill because you said that on money, it says, "In God we trust."
Right.
But this money wasn't created by God. This paper money was invented by the government.
Correct.
So why are we throwing God around to try to get people to believe this money?
Well, number one, Marx was anti-Christian, if you study his works. And so that's when you look at history, I'm not saying it's my opinion of him. I read his work. So when you study that stuff, and Americans are so gullible that if Jesus said it, it must be true. I said, well, I don't know about Jesus. I don't remember him saying that. But anyway, do you know what I mean? I was raised Christian. I don't go to church anymore. I believe in God and all this stuff. I respect all religions. That's what it is. You want to be a Hindu, Muslim, Jew, whatever you want. It's up to you. It's a free country. So I don't get into that stuff. But in 1964, it didn't say, "In God we trust."
Really?
It said a silver certificate. Oh, you're full of shit, Kiyosaki. Well, check history, assholes. In 1964, the dollar was a silver certificate. It meant it was backed by silver.
So now this "In God we trust" money, paper money, can now be printed on command by the Federal Reserve Bank. And
If you understand history, the reason I pay no taxes is because I borrow money. I'm a debtor. The only way the economy, and check this out. I mean, all you communists out there, check this stuff out. I am a billionaire in debt. You know why? Because I get tax breaks for borrowing money. And the reason I am so rich is because I'm in debt. And my friend Dave Ramsey says, live debt free. I'm going, well, you're an idiot. I mean, he's my friend, but I say, Dave, I like debt. He says, I know, but most people can't handle debt. I said, I agree. But that's why there's no financial education in schools, because if you knew how to handle debt, you wouldn't save that crappy dollar you have in your hand. I'd rather borrow the money tax-free.
And then do what with it?
Huh?
And then do what with it?
I have to invest it to make more money. Everybody thinks it's real estate, stocks. When I talk to most idiots out there, they go, oh, I have a 401k. I go, well, you've been sold a bill of goods, sweetheart. The government sponsors this 401k. I said, no, the Federal Reserve and Wall Street sponsors it. If you study history, in 1974, there was an act called the ERISA Act, Employee Retirement Income Security Act. That led to a thing called the 401k. And that was in 1974, just after Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, and then the economy could boom through the stock market. So do I own any stocks? No, because I'm not a communist. I am a capitalist. I don't have to buy stocks. I invent my own. That's what capitalists do.
So you create value.
Yes.
But are you worried then about innovation and how that could potentially affect things?
I borrow money. The more money I borrow, the less tax I pay. So what happens? So let's say I own a commercial building and I buy it for $1 million. It goes up to $10 million. Most guys would sell it. The moment you sell, let's say, a basis of 1 million to a basis of 10, I have a $9 million capital gains. So instead of selling it and flipping it like those flippers do, I don't flip, I don't sell. See, the moment you sell, as you know, as an attorney, you've now executed a capital event, a taxable event. So what I do is, let's say I buy a property for $1 million, it goes to $10 million. I'll borrow out 5 tax-free.
And they go out and buy some more. You keep doing it again
Thank you,
and
Jesus. You're an attorney. You're pretty good.
Well, I don't practice as an attorney, but I do have the attorney name behind mine.
It helps. I know it does help. Like exactly as I said, people are afraid of attorneys because they don't know the law.
But what's going to happen to our economy then? Because
we're screwed.
We've seen this happen, and you talk about this in civilizations from the Roman Empire to Venezuela to the Weimar Republic. Anytime someone starts debasing the value of their money with something fake, how does that affect? I mean, what's in our future?
I'm just reporting what I know. In 1965, I left Hawaii. I was a surfer kid. I have F's all over my things. But the only reason they accepted me to the academies was because I played football. That's pretty good.
What position did you play?
Fat boy. Tackle.
Tackle? Yeah. So then what? So now you're saying that our economy's screwed.
But I'm studying. I'm at the academy, and military education is different than snowflake education. Going to the University of Hawaii, which is hula girls and flower lays and all that garbage, and taught by communists. So I'm in military school, and my instructor is a B-17 pilot who got shot down twice in Germany. So he's my father's generation. And I started asking him, said, what's it like to get shot down? He says, well, you don't need to drink coffee for a couple of weeks. And he had to escape and evade, and he was never captured. He says, boy, I tell you, I think at one time he was a month. He was shot down almost over Germany because the P-51 Mustang, until there was a P-51, I'm a pilot. So the B-17 had long range, but our fighter aircraft couldn't escort them. So as soon as the fighter aircraft dropped off, the Messerschmitts and the Focke-Wulfs jumped them. And that's where the B-17 pilots were shot down left and right. If you said I'm a B-17 pilot, I said, I hope you have life insurance. Those guys were so brave. They're like the firefighters who went up the towers of 9/11. Those 343 died. They walked knowing they probably weren't coming back. Yeah. And most cowards don't understand that behavior. That's what angers me. So when I came back from Vietnam after going down 3 times, then I get spit on, hit by eggs by these hippies who now run our school systems and Hollywood and sports and all this. I get a little upset.
You almost risked your life. You did risk your life. You almost lost your life.
Not only that, I had to kill people. But people don't know that, like Mao killed, I think, 110 million people. How many people did, I think, Hitler killed 44 million people, 6 million Jews and a bunch of Slavs and all this. Stalin was one of the biggest murderers of all. But they don't report that in school. Those hippies from Woodstock who spit on me and everything when I came back from Vietnam, they didn't realize in 1930, the Frankfurt School transported from Berlin to New York City called Columbia University's Teacher College. And that's where postmodernist education comes from, which is opinion and emotion. STEMs, what science, technology, engineering, and math is out.
So what does somebody do now if you're 30 years old, 25 years old, 35 years old, and you hear about the money being printed like this? How do you now build wealth then? How do you, if our economy has not such a bright future, what do you do?
Well, I'll just say, I have 4 friends. Total is 5. We kind of grew up together. We're all billionaires. We didn't learn any of that in school. We studied history.
So go out and get a history book?
But you better, you said earlier, history is written by the victor, right?
Yeah.
Where the victor goes history. So it's fake. So that's why I had to do my own. And you know, what's wonderful is, I think, where is it? Anyway, my cell phone, everybody has a cell phone today. That's the most powerful tool ever created for entrepreneurs. You know, on the iPhone, I mean, Steve Jobs never went to school either. I mean, he dropped out of Reed College. Mm-hmm. I had a house right next to a door to Reed College, the Communist Republic of Oregon. But, and I used to just walk Reed College and say, oh, Steve Jobs lived here. You know, I was so enamored by it because he was my hero, you know, Steve. And I was going with that. But anyway, he invented this iPhone, which gave more power to every young person than history. The trouble is, without a basic appreciation for history, the average young person doesn't know what they're looking at. What I think is funny, I'm so obsolete, you know, I'm 74 years old, and I had no idea what was going on social media. What people may not realize is that history is disturbed by technology. For example, the Roaring Twenties was caused by the radio. So when the radio came in, it was the new authority in the 1920s in the house. So the young people said, so mommy and daddy said, well, this is the way it is. But in the 1920s, my father's generation, they said, no, that's not the way it is. I heard it on the radio. Then my generation, the boomer generation, was television. So I went off to war with John Wayne in my head, you know, I got shot in the shoulder, but it's only, no, you see a bullet wound, it tears a shoulder off. It's not, it's just, I'll put a little Band-Aid on this. So when Americans started seeing My Lai and the atrocities of Vietnam, that's when the boomers erupted. But that was intentional because, you know, media is socialist, communist. And so
even the media.
Oh, yeah. So I'm in Hue, the capital, ancient capital of Vietnam. And these reporters come up to me and they said, you're a Marine, aren't you? I go, yes. You're not supposed to be here. So, yeah, technically, you know, legally, I'm not here. They took off on that one. They wanted to show every atrocity possible so Americans would not support us in Vietnam. Our own media betrayed the troops on the ground.
Do you think the media still lies to people?
Of course. They're Marx. They're run by China. I mean, how can we have two national anthems today? That was Marx. He was a racist. If you just study history. But our school system will never, they only report one side. So when I come taxiing back in 1973, I'm coming back 1 year in Vietnam, and I get spit on, hit by eggs, my own baby boomers, friends. I come home, I get spit on at school in Hawaii and all this. They turned, the media turned against us, the soldiers, the Marines, the sailors, the women, the men. It was horrible. I was going for my MBA at the University of Hawaii. I only lasted like 6 months.
Wow.
I couldn't take the fact that I was always criticized in class. What are you doing here? You're a baby killer. I'm going, Jesus. So our own media turned my generation, a boomer generation, against the soldiers. These guys fighting for capitalism. And they don't understand that socialists killed the most people in history. We just went to defend it. It's the same as on 9/11, I was landing in Rome, Italy, you know, and I couldn't believe what was happening. So I see the towers burning and all this. The next day, I'm in Istanbul speaking to Muslims. And I stood up there and I went, you know, I hate to say this, but I do not understand the Muslim religion. And I think that's the problem. We don't understand each other.
Lack of education.
Correct.
And that goes across.
But I want to tell you what we're taught is the Muslims believe in killing. They don't believe in the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not kill, which is Jewish.
You don't think they're a peaceful religion?
That's not my experience. That's what we're taught. They're radicalized. There's radicalized Christians, as you know, too. They're just as goofy as ever. If you're radicalized, you're radicalized. I mean, I don't care what you are. You know, some people are Packers fans and some people are Patriots fans. Are radicalized. You know, they're nuts. Yeah. They're nuts.
Yeah.
So I'm standing in front of like 500 Muslims, and I have no idea what Muslims are. And they're good people. You know, it's just the radicals. So I realized what I was taught about radicalized Islam was inaccurate. And so that's why that's why I speak and I say what we do. We need to find more respect, is the word, not radical. More respect for other people's religions, beliefs. Are you liberal? Are you a socialist? Are you communist? I mean, I don't really care. I'm a capitalist. You want to be a socialist? It's a free country. Be one. But don't take my freedoms away. Don't take my freedom of speech and the right to bear arms away. That's all I ask. Just don't censor me. And I've been censored so many times lately, plus called a white supremacist and a racist. I'm going, oh my God. But they haven't studied history. And in my family, when they were interned in California and up and down the Montana and all where they put the Japanese, is all it did was inspire my uncles to go and fight for America. We're Japanese Americans. We're not Japanese, we're Americans. And so the 442nd Infantry Battalion was an all Japanese battalion that turned out to be the most highly decorated battalion in U.S. history. That's my uncles. 7 went to war. All 7 came back. 2 went to fight the Japanese in Japan. You know, I mean, we're Americans. I can be Japanese, you can be Indian, you can be, you know, Portuguese, Chinese, but we're Americans. It's a culture. And what I don't like about critical race theory and Black Lives Matter and all that, they're splitting us. We're now at war with each other, but that's the power of the iPhone also. You know, we can fractionalize people so quickly today. Get a mob going and all this stuff. It's just run on emotion and opinions, not the facts, Jack. Yeah. So that's why I speak and I say what I want. That's why I'm writing my book, Capitalist Manifesto. It's because it changed my whole point of view. When that B-17 pilot at the Academy in New York started telling me about what it was like to go when the fighter escorts dropped off. You know, so the B-17 is flying for Germany, and then finally until they had the P-51 Mustang, the fighter escorts had to drop off, and so the Luftwaffe jumped them. I said, how'd you guys keep going? I said, we just kept going.
I think you're spot on. You know, with the lack of education, understanding of one another, I think a lot of people feel left out.
Yes.
In the economy, in the country, from different religions to different people, from different races, people feel left out and they have pain. And we've seen this across civilizations, across time, when people feel left out. And this goes back to, we can just look at the wealth gap. Anytime you see a widening wealth gap, you start to see more unrest. People feel left out. They feel left out of the economy. They feel left out of the system. They're not heard. So, I mean, it goes back to the economy then at that point, right? I mean, if somebody is...
It's money.
It's money. But we don't have money.
I'll quote Marx. It says, I'm not interested in money, but money is the reason we fight. And Marx also said revolution is the locomotive of history. We're on the verge of revolution right now.
Right now?
Right now.
What does that mean?
You better have a gun.
You mean like a...
That's why they want to defund the police and all that.
So you're saying get a gun, buy some ammo, protect yourself.
Well, I'm much simpler man. It's gold, silver, Bitcoin, and bullets.
Gold, silver, Bitcoin, and bullets. All right.
I mean, I've made so much money on bullets. You have no idea, because being kind of... let me tell another story, because when I went to school in New York, I had a Jewish friend. And in Hawaii, we don't pay attention to that stuff growing up, you know. You're either white or non-white. That was it. You know, I don't really care. I just want to know how come the white guys were rich and the Asian guys weren't. That's all I cared about, you know. And they're all good people. You know, it's just different.
Yeah, I mean, all people, you have a good and your bad, right? Across color, across religion.
Yeah, and some of the biggest crooks I met are white guys. You know, this company has been screwed by white guys and women more than any other company I know. I mean, it's horrible. But hi, we're here to help you in your mission to educate financial well-being. And no, they came to fucking steal. They're all accountants and attorneys.
I feel like you're attacking me on that one.
No. I'm just saying you can't tell by the surface. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So today, those guys did me a favor because for every bad partner, I found good partners. And today I have a team of about 12 of us. They're my team. Business is a team sport, but in school, a team sport is called cheating. I cheat like a wild man. I have the best accountants, attorneys, doctors, lawyers. You got to have the specialists. But I go in as a team, and schools tell you to be smart on your own. That's why my poor dad was poor. He had to be a PhD who knew jack shit.
So how do you learn then? Like if you're a parent, your kids are in school, how do you teach them? How do you teach them to become successful?
Well, that's why my book coming out November 10th, 2021. November 10th is the Marine Corps birthday, okay? And the positioning statement in the Capitalist Manifesto is how to counter communism taught in our schools by teaching capitalism in our homes. So in 1996, my wife and I created the cash flow board game to teach the basics of accounting and finance at home, because they'll never teach you that in school because it's capitalist. School teachers are communists. They don't know anything about money. They believe in centralized government. They believe in high taxes, tax the rich. They believe all of that stuff. They want to tax the kids that go to school and get them deeply in debt. Oh, Obama, you should go to school. Get loaded with student loan debt. Student loan debt is the worst possible debt possible because it's non-forgivable. See, I can BK out of a bad loan, bankrupt. You can't do that with a student loan. There's a building right behind one of my projects. It's the biggest building on the block. It's dedicated to student loans.
Wow.
And people don't see that. They call me a crook because I make millions of dollars. I follow the law. I pay 0 taxes. But I understand debt and I understand taxes. I understand the central banks. That's why Ron Paul, said, and the Fed. The Fed is a Marxist organization. Just read history.
But we still need doctors and accountants and engineers. We still need these people.
I didn't say we didn't need them. I'm just saying they've been indoctrinated into Marxism. That's no different like when I was in Istanbul speaking to Muslims. I said, I don't even know what Muslim religion is. I just told you guys we're infidels. They're good people. Do you know what I mean? There's radicalized guys. I don't doubt that. Marines are pretty radical, if you know what I mean. We're taught to kill communists for Christ, because most Marines are very Christian. And I'm going out there, I'm blasting away and wiping them out and all this. What the hell am I doing? But when you're getting shot at, it's not a time to question your philosophical beliefs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Life or death at that point.
When your friends don't come home, you cry. I remember I was in Singapore and I saw one of my classmates from high school. He was a Marine Corps A6 pilot, A6 intruder. It had the nastiest mission. The A6 was called the Flying Coffin. Because they were just experimenting with driverless cars. This was a pilotless plane. So the A6 would come in, it would drop to a defilate. Defilate means it could fly between mountains and plains and all this, and then drop its bombs and come off. So his name was Robbie Peacock. So he was one of those rich kids I went to school with when I was in elementary school. And I said, "Hey, Robbie, how you doing? I'll see you back in Hawaii." He goes, "I'll see you there, man." And he went to Dartmouth. He was a brilliant kid. Next day he was dead. Never came back. They never found him.
That's horrible.
Another friend that was shot down, same A6, they never found him. Another friend was an F4 pilot, and he spent the war at the Hanoi Hilton. The pain in my heart is strong because these are my friends.
Yeah, you saw them lose
for the last time. And then meanwhile, I have to go into battle and I have to do things I really don't want to do. But remember this, socialists and communists have killed the most people in world history. So that's why I speak. You probably get deplatformed for this one. I get taken off all the time. You better censor this out. But I just tell people what I know. You know, you want to be a communist? It's a free country. You know, you want to censor people? It's a free country. You can do that. You want to take my guns away? Good. You want to be a Christian? Fine. You want to be an atheist? Fine. I'm a capitalist. You don't want to be a capitalist? Fine. Capitalists make a lot of money and pay no taxes legally.
And the way that you always talk about to build wealth is you need to start buying assets. I
don't buy them. I create them.
Create assets.
See that guy over there? His name is called Albert Einstein. The saying says, imagination is more important than knowledge. I make up my own assets. I don't need to go to the frickin' stock market. I can create my own.
But if you're 25 years old and you want to become rich, you want to become wealthy, you want to become the next Robert Kiyosaki, you have to start somewhere.
Right, but that's education, but they don't teach you that in school.
Right, so what I'm saying is now in today's market, where you have a strong stock market, a strong real estate market.
It's not a crash. We're on a depression right now. A recession is 2 quarters of declining growth.
Right.
But a depression is suboptimal growth. So you could have, let's say that your GDP should be 4%, but you're operating at 2%. That's a depression. People don't know history. Is that what happened on September 17th, 2019? There was a crash in the repo market. The average person has no idea what the repo market was. That what happened in 2021, so they pumped up. So the last time there was a crash in the repo market was 2008. So I'm sitting here in 2019, September 17th. It's like, my God, the repo market crashed. And then a few months later, COVID appears. I went, oh my God, here it is.
Can you tell us what the repo market is?
Repo market is, I call it the pawn shop. It's where people go in there and they what happened at the repo market is the Fed starts pumping money into the commercial banks like Bank of America and those guys, Wells Fargo. So they started pumping money into the banks because the banks were empty. That's what happened when Lehman Brothers went down. They didn't have enough cash in them. But it's not even goes into the economy. It stays within the banking system. So what happens in a reverse repo, so 2008 was a repo, 2019 was a repo, and then what happened in 2021 was a reverse repo. The money started coming out of banks and going back to the Fed. Now the average guy, what does that mean? It means that the commercial banks don't trust their assets. Their assets are questionable. It's the valuation. Valuation is an opinion. Mm-hmm. This house is worth $10 million. Well, that's an opinion. So they started wondering what was the true valuation of their so-called assets. So the money started coming out of commercial banks like Bank of America and Wells Fargo, flowed back into the Fed because they'd rather have it at the Fed than in the marketplace.
So you're saying banks don't trust their own assets that they're investing in?
Their opinions.
And they don't like the opinions anymore?
No.
I mean...
So I'm the most boring guy on earth. My friends are billionaires. That's what we talk about. The average person has no idea what we're talking about. We have to watch the flows of cash. That's why my game is called cash flow.
Yeah.
I'm watching which way is it flowing.
I mean, if you look in hindsight, 2001 seemed obvious. 2008 seemed obvious.
But people know. I'll bet you $1 million. You ask 100 people what the repo market is, you'd be lucky if 50 know what it means. That's not a mistake. It's not an indictment against them. It's an indictment against our school system.
Do you think that our stock market is a bubble? We're going to jump back into the video in just a second, but before we do, I want to give you a quick word from our sponsor, BlockFi. If you're interested in cryptocurrency, then you need to check out BlockFi, because with BlockFi, you can finally start earning interest on your cryptocurrency. So if you own Bitcoin or Ethereum or one of the stable coins, you can earn interest just for holding on to your cryptocurrency. So now you don't have to wait to sell your coin to make some money. You can just hold it and earn some interest through BlockFi. BlockFi is not a bank. It's a crypto financial institution that will pay you when you keep your cryptocurrency at BlockFi. The way it works is you deposit your cryptocurrency into BlockFi, and then BlockFi uses your cryptocurrency as collateral to lend out money in cryptocurrency to big institutions, and then these institutions pay BlockFi interest, and then they pay you for keeping your cryptocurrency at BlockFi. And the best part is you can pull out your cryptocurrency whenever you want. You are not bound to keep your cryptocurrency there for any period of time. You can deposit your cryptocurrency and pull it out at any time you want. Plus, they just launched a new ACH feature which allows you to passively buy cryptocurrency. So you can set up a schedule where you're buying $10 worth of Bitcoin or Ethereum every single day or every single week, and as soon as you buy this cryptocurrency, it's going to start earning you interest. Now, this is not completely risk-free because BlockFi is not FDIC insured because they're not a bank, but if you do want to learn more and you want to see how you can earn interest on the cryptocurrencies that you do own, I'll put the link to where you can learn more and get started with BlockFi in the description below. Minority Mindset is a paid partner with BlockFi, so if you use them, we will get compensated, but there's no additional cost to you. So if you want to learn more and see how you can earn interest on your cryptocurrency, I'll put the link to where you can do that in the description below. And now let's go back to the video.
It's criminal. I mean, the only reason they gave the CEOs all that money is so they can repurchase their stock. So let's say I'm IBM or Ford. You give me $1 million, okay? So I borrow $5 million from the Ford's treasury. I buy $6 million of my stock. It jacks the stock price up. So mommy and daddy with their 401k, the Ford Motor Company went up in price. It's all floating on debt.
And you think this is on its way down?
Let me just say this much. Markets go up and markets come down. It's coming down. And then we're going into depression, and then we go into revolution.
What does a depression look like?
Depression is when more jobs are lost and they're going to have to print more money. Just as they did to prevent when Fauci, fascist Fauci shut down the U.S. economy, the whole world economy is shut down. How can they pay people not to work? America is now the largest debtor nation in history. Student loan debt is out of sight. Consumer loan debt is out of sight. Stock market is all based upon debt.
We have more national debt than GDP.
I don't know the exact numbers, but I think we're pushing the debt to GDP ratio. Okay, with a debt to GDP, it's really simple. When a debt to GDP hits 90%, so we have 90% debt to GDP. That's pretty optimal. That means every dollar you borrow, when it's 90%, the economy grows by 10%. So it's a 10 to 1, a 10% ratio. Today, the debt to GDP ratio is 140% to 1. They cannot add any more money to it. It's not going to grow. That's what it means. So it's like a guy who has a house that's he kept refinancing his house and he loses his job. He can't borrow anymore. So that's what happens when the debt to GDP went past 90 to 1, 90% debt to GDP. Today it's 140%. We're bankrupt.
How long?
The average guy has no clue what I just said to you.
How much time do we have left?
We're already finished. Gold, silver, Bitcoin, bullets.
So let's talk about Bitcoin, because this is where a lot of young people are pouring their money into. And then you have people like Michael Burry, who shorted the housing market before the 2008 crash, calling Bitcoin the biggest bubble of them all. Says that if you don't understand debt, you don't understand Bitcoin. Is that a safe place to keep your money then?
No. Only reason I buy Bitcoin is I don't trust my government. I don't trust the Federal Reserve Bank. I don't trust the Treasury. I don't trust basement Biden, and I don't trust the stock market. Now, if you trust all four of them, have a good life. I have gold, silver, Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is a bet against the government. I'll say this one more time. If you study Marx, a central bank is essential to communism. That's the Fed. It's the third central bank we've had. It came into existence in 1913. In 1913, the Fed was created, so was the tax department in 1913. Oh, coincidence. The average guy has no idea that happened. The other thing about Bitcoin is my basis is $7,000.
Meaning you were buying Bitcoin at $7,000.
Yeah. So always remember, your profit's made when you buy, not when you sell. So do I recommend people buy? I think Bitcoin's around 40,000 today as we talk. Would I recommend it at 40? No. But at 6, I would.
So you just wait for it to crash?
Of course. buy low, sell high, but I never sell. I borrow out. You see, if I'm trying to think tax law, English common law, and Amsterdam was corporate law. So what happens is, let me give the same example. I buy Bitcoin or a property at $1 million, property in the sand. It goes up to 10. I'll borrow out at 5. That fell $5 million. I still have the property. I haven't sold it. I have no taxable event because I didn't sell it. So that $5 million is tax-free because it's debt. You see, debt is the key. And guys, oh, I live debt-free. I mean, you're a stupid monkey. That's what it means. You've just been a puppet on a string taught by school teachers and financial planners and all these guys who know nothing about money.
This is one of the things when I first read your book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I mean, I grew up as a horrible student in English. English was my second language. My dad always told me, don't worry too much about English. Just focus on math and science. You can become a doctor. So I was never good at English. I never read a book. And when I was in high school, my dad gave me this book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm like, you're telling me to read a book? Anyways, we're on a flight to India. And this is before they had TVs in the planes. And I brought the book with me along with my biology textbook and some other stuff. I got bored of studying. So then I picked up this book. Let me try this. It's the first time I read a book cover to cover. And I was angry when I read your book, because you talked about how, you have the ESBI.
That's Cash Flow Quadrant. That's book 2.
Cash Flow Quadrant. Okay, that was the second book maybe I read. But you were talking about how doctors
pay the highest
taxes. And like the dream for so many immigrant, especially Indian households, is go become a doctor and become a doctor where you can start your own practice. S quadrant, become your own boss and pay half of your money, if not more, in taxes.
60%.
60% in taxes.
If you're a doctor or a lawyer, you make $1 million, $600K goes to the government.
You could spend the same amount of time. It takes 10 years to become a doctor. If you take 10 years and you work that hard to learn money, real estate, investing, you can make the same amount of money, if not more, and keep all of it.
Of course. I use debt. Remember, 1913, the Federal Reserve Bank, the third Federal Reserve Bank was created of America. The tax department was created in 1913 also. You get the picture yet. And taxes come out of corporate law of Amsterdam because it was shipping, and English common law is English.
Why don't more people, this is the thing that really I don't understand, is why don't people do something about that? Because your book is public. People read this and they're like, wow, this is crazy. But then they continue to get angry at people like you. Is something wrong in the system? Do people not have the ability to go out and do it? Or what is it?
It's not easy. Do you know what I mean? I wish I could say, if it was easy, I'd tell everybody it was easy. Hopefully that more and more people will get the message. We need doctors, you know that. We need less attorneys, you know that.
That's true.
They're ambulance chasers now, and I got to watch out for those guys.
Yeah. So, okay, I really want to get back to this question, because now I think our audience is a lot of millennials, 25 to 40-year-old people who are really on their journey to become wealth. Many of them are working jobs. This is their way of providing for their families. A lot of people, they're not meant to be entrepreneurs, or they don't have it in it to them to run their own business, or they don't have the risk appetite to do that. So should they stop investing in their 401k? Should they stop putting money in the stock market? Should they take all their money and buy gold? What do they do?
I don't give financial advice, because that gets me in more trouble. I just tell people what I do. I own gold mines that I took public. So, you have stocks. I said, yeah, they're my stocks, idiot. I own silver mines. I don't trust frickin' Chinese. Because my gold mine in China, they took $1 billion gold mine. I was a billionaire for about a year. And the Chinese said, oh, thank you very much. But that's why I know about the Uyghurs and all this stuff, that they have the Belt and One Road project. My friends in Hong Kong, they think that COVID came about because they wanted to find a way to stop the Hong Kong riots.
Really?
Those are all opinions, but I can't really prove all that stuff. I just would rather have the gold than the gold mine now. And I've owned silver mines in Argentina. I made fortunes off of that stuff. But my stock, I take companies public. I don't buy stocks. Now that takes education that you don't get in school. But my best thing, I say to young people, is this: you have the most powerful tool ever created for an entrepreneur. It's called an iPhone, or what, the Korean version of it. You have the most powerful tool, but it can also be used against you if you're not educated. See, if you believe all that stuff on your phone, I think one of the biggest things that goes against a school teacher is YouTube. You know, I find the best teachers on YouTube. They're not, you know, they teach because they want to teach, but some of them are crooks too. Well, you got to know the difference. And so I think YouTube is fantastic, and I'm on YouTube constantly. So you saw me take off my headsets and all this. I go to sleep with YouTube on, but I choose my teachers wisely.
So who are some good teachers people can watch?
I listen to guys who hate each other. This may sound strange, but Peter Schiff hates Bitcoin. He's a good friend of mine. He's a gold guy. Then I listen to Michael Saylor and all these other guys who are Bitcoin guys. And so I just listen to the 2 points of view, because in between there is something I can take away. Mm-hmm. But I don't listen to just one side. That's why I said when I was in 9/11 or 9/13, I was in Istanbul talking to Muslims. I said, I want to find out about your religion. Because I was told what I was told as a Marine. Mm-hmm. You know, the Crusades and other infidels and all this crap that we're taught as Marines also. And I said, you guys are good people. They're good people.
As you learn more and more about people, you learn more to respect others, right? Because you learn more about their culture, you learn more about their thought process. Well,
I'll tell you what, the reason I checked you out, I said, you could have a lot of balls to wear that turban. You know, you don't find me walking around in a kimono, do you?
Yeah. It makes you tougher, you know?
It is harder. Your faith has to be strong.
If you get bullied your whole life, people call you names your whole life.
Yeah, makes you stronger.
You stop caring what people think and you do what you think is right.
Good for you. That's why I listen to you. I want you to know that. I mean, I go, man, I don't know if you know, but there was a sheik or something right after 9/11. They murdered him here in Phoenix.
Yeah, sick. Yeah, Balbir Singh Sodhi was the first Sikh killed after the 9/11 attacks.
Yeah, and people, when they go nuts, you know, which we did in Vietnam, we did things you're not supposed to do. But when you say your friend's dying, you change. And until you see that, or until you walk a mile in my shoes, you know what it's like.
So you're just talking from experience, things that you've seen.
Correct.
Things that you've wished you would have known, things that you have, you know, seen along the way that it's just.
But you can't know, you know, you don't know much when you're young, you know. I mean, I meet young people today, I can't believe how stupid they are. But then when I look back up on my own record, I make them look intelligent. You know, I was so stupid.
Well, yeah, I mean, you had your rich dad, and that you kind of look up to.
And that's why I understand. That's why when I talk about YouTube, I listen to both sides. There are hardcore communist school teachers on YouTube. It takes, I don't know what to say. I listen to these guys, I want to choke them. They're school teachers teaching communism. I mean, not Marxism, communism in our schools. This guy even looks like Marx. I'm going, hold him. It takes, so I think he had an hour talk. It took every ounce of courage in my body to listen to that guy. But and I didn't learn much from him. I just said I hated him. But then I listen to guys like Jordan Peterson and all that who are more in my channel, you know, my wavelength.
Yeah.
But the reason I said to young people, you're given the most powerful tool ever given to any generation. It's called that iPhone. Everybody want to call it now. But you have to be careful how you use it. Be careful who you listen to. And that's all there is. I mean, you can use it to get really rich, or you can use it to get really stupid.
I mean, I think it's harder for millennials now to build wealth or kind of have any sort of financial freedom than previous generations. Correct me if I'm wrong, because previous generations, you had Social Security, you had pensions, you had all these things that the other people would come and spoon feed you in retirement, versus now millennials are told, hey, if you want to retire wealthy, you just invest in a 401k. And so, I mean, a lot of people are working towards a quote unquote retirement. Now, whether that's right or wrong, it's at the end of the day, everyone's working towards some sort of financial freedom.
Yeah, but the point here is freedom means you have freedom of choice. And if you think freedom is a 401k, then I'll pray for you tonight. Because I know the history of it. 1974, the ERISA Act was passed. ERISA, Employee Retirement Income Security Act, which morphed into the 401k, which morphed into the IRA. I don't know if you know this, but in 1970, up until 1974, it was illegal for Americans to own gold.
Really?
Yeah, they don't teach you that in school.
And you were buying gold then, weren't you, behind enemy lines, or trying to?
I smuggled it in. I smuggled a South African gold Kruger in. I still have that Kruger in. I paid $50 for it. Today it's worth $2,000.
Wow. How did you smuggle it?
Put it in my pocket. No, I mean, customs guys aren't the brightest. They're looking for drugs, not looking for gold.
So should more and more young people be going out and buying gold then as their retirement plan?
No, I save gold. I don't save dollars. I borrow dollars. I'm completely fucked up. I'm a capitalist. That's why you want to listen to Dave Ramsey, who's a good friend of mine. Live debt free. I go, why are my friends all billionaires and they're deeply in debt? Think about that. But you got to be very smart to borrow $1 billion.
I think a lot of young people would disagree. Young people who are drowning in student loan debt, who are trying to...
Because they're stupid and get in debt. No, I'm not saying it's the college. You've been set up. Student loan debt is the worst. I wouldn't touch that crap like I wouldn't touch a 401k. Now, if you don't know the difference between a piece of dog shit and a 401k or a student loan, that's your problem.
So the best cash flow, I mean, would you agree, is real estate?
No, I don't even need real estate. I use debt. I'm just looking for an excuse for somebody to give me a loan.
So you go out and borrow money, but then do what with it? I mean, what are you buying?
I have to create money from the money. Look, when I found this gold mine in China, they gave it to me for free because it was just the transition when they were shifting to capitalism and any communist project that wasn't making money. So we were shopping in China. Everything was on sale. This is 1989 when the communist Berlin Wall fell and all that stuff was falling. So we found this gold mine in Dalian, China. They said, all you have to do is take it public, raise the capital. So we took it public on the Toronto Stock Exchange, the TSE. We did all the assays, we did all the hard work, and today they're SPACs. IPOs are different than SPACs. Mm-hmm. It's all this goofy stuff going on today, which makes it you got to be twice as smart as a young person today. So we raised $27 million on the Toronto Stock Exchange. We found gold, and the Chinese said, "Thank you very much."
They took it away from you?
Yes.
Did you get anything back?
Of course not. I don't trust Chinese governments. I've been screwed so many times by the Chinese, People say you're racist. I said, yeah, against Chinese. No, I'm only kidding. It's not the Chinese people, it's the government, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. They're not smart people. You know that accountants and attorneys are not creative. Einstein over there, she's got a picture of Einstein. Mm-hmm. Imagination is more important than knowledge. They have knowledge. They have no imagination. They've never taken a company public. They've never taken something and turned it in, taken nothing and turned it into something.
I think that goes back to the school system.
Yes,
right?
they can't think. They have memorized right answers and regurgitate.
So if someone has a kid, do you homeschool them or do you keep them in school?
I don't know. I don't give advice. I just tell you what I did. I had a rich dad and a poor dad. I went to a rich white school.
This became a rich dad for a lot of people.
Yeah,
the book.
And I think that's the happiest thing about my life right now. Because I have so many young people come up to me and say, it's like my father gave me your book. And that's the joy, that's spiritual. I go, thank you. It's now number 20 in Amazon. It's 25 years old.
Wow. How does that feel, inspiring so many millions of people?
It touches my heart. And so that's why I'm accused of being a racist and all this stuff. I go, well, you don't know me, so say what you like. But that's what I'm saying. Postmodernist education is opinion and emotion. Critical race theory, Black Lives Matter, cancel culture. It's not education anymore. It never was anyway. 1930, the Frankfurt School moved from Berlin to New York City to Columbia University, teaches women's college. 1930. They don't teach you that in teacher school.
Where can someone go to learn? Do you have any books you can recommend?
Well, it's all over. I mean, I just study. I didn't do well in school, but I do study. But I don't study that garbage. They teach me to study.
Because I know you've talked about The Creature from Jekyll Island.
Yeah, by
that book
Jaspreet
really
Singh.
opened my eyes, at least to the Federal Reserve Bank and how that worked. Is there any other places, kind of resources someone can go to
No,
learn?
you just be skeptical. Like, you know why I flunked out of high school? It's because I flunked out of sophomore year, 15. The teacher, they were studying Columbus, and I'm an expert on Columbus because I went to go to the Merchant Marine Academy. I wanted to be a ship's. I built boats. I'm a naval architect. I understand that stuff. So the teacher said, what was Columbus's flagship? Do you know which one it was? The Pinta, the Nina, and the Santa Maria, right? Which was the flagship?
I don't know.
It depended upon the voyage. See, the Pinta, the Nina, and the Santa Maria burned. So the Pinta took over flagship going back.
Wow.
And so when I wrote that answer, I got an F. And I took that teacher to fucking court, man. I just said, how dare you? How dare you? How dare you give me an F? Now, my father was head of education for the state of Hawaii. He fired him. He says, let my son think. School teachers are not very smart people. They wouldn't be school teachers. They're good people, but they're not. They have to go by the teacher's manual. They're employees. They all belong to a Marxist organization called the NEA, National Education Association. And you know what Marx said, right? Workers of the world unite. Labor unions. The most powerful labor union in America today is the NEA. Forbes called them the National Extortion Association. That's why during this COVID thing, you couldn't send your kid to school. The unions control everything.
Wow.
I'm not against unions, I'm against ignorance.
Just like how you're not against education, it's just...
What kind of education? Who are your teachers?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that we talk about on our channel is that education is the backbone to success. But the question is, where do you get that education? For me, school was awesome. I loved school. I wasn't studying the best in class, but I had a great time. I had so much fun in school, and I learned so much. And that's where I started my first real business. That's where I started investing in real estate. But I think it's just we get caught up in a bubble and within ourselves. We don't know how to start absorbing content that is contradictory to us. And I think part of this might have to go to social media, because the way social media is designed, it pulls you into a rabbit hole. Once Facebook or Instagram or whatever, they see that you start liking something, they show you more and more and more and more of that, where anytime you see something different, you get angry. And I think that, you talk about...
That's very, very astute. Anything that contradicts you, you should listen to. Because it's hitting some value system or culture inside of you. That's why I said on 9/11, when I was in Istanbul, I realized I didn't know. We were taught that Muslims were infidels. They're good people. But I was a radicalized Marine, and they're a radicalized, they're radicalized Islams too. We're all extremes. And I learned a lot that day speaking to them.
And it creates fear.
Huh?
It creates fear. People get scared of what they don't know. I mean, I'll tell you, if I walk on a plane, you'll see people, even on the way to, come and fly in here to do this interview, people just kind of move in. And it's like,
Well, that's why I tell you, I give you credit, man, wearing that outfit. You don't find me walking around in a kimono.
Yeah, but fear is a way people can control people.
Yes, exactly. A pandemic of fear, that's all it is. So I'm speaking to you today, not because I want to cover my ass, but because that's what we're taught to do at military school. I didn't go to Snowflake University. I wasn't taught, there's trigger events, you hurt my feelings. Oh, fuck you. Get your feelings right. That's why I give you credit. You wear that outfit of yours. I give you so much freaking credit because I don't have that courage, man.
Also to represent a legacy. I mean, I know the struggle my grandparents.
It's your culture.
My grandparents almost fought for their lives.
Yes.
When the government lied to them.
Yes.
My parents almost lost their lives when our home state was bombed in the 80s.
Yes.
And then my dad came to this country with nothing, worked his butt off, got fired because of the way he looked.
Yes.
And so it's to represent where you come from, and then just having that knowledge, and then, but it also gives you a driving force. I'm not just fighting for me, I'm fighting for the whole culture.
That's right. And so that's why when I came across you on YouTube, I'm going, this guy, as the Mexicans say, you got cojones. And I think that's what we need now. If I can inspire somebody to speak out, to tell, right or wrong. If you think we should disarm everybody and live happily ever after and sing Kumbaya, go ahead. But that's not the world I see out there.
Yeah.
I carry a gun.
And I think
because I've had people try and kill me before.
And I think that's, an important lesson is, a lot of people are going to watch this, they're going to disagree with you.
Of course.
They're going to say you're crazy.
Well, I should say, you should have a 401k. You should go to school. You should be a good person and don't say anything. That's what people want me to say.
Yeah. And people are going to say you're crazy, a conspiracy theorist, and a whole bunch of things. But I think they have to make their own decisions, right? What's right for you might not be right for somebody else, but they have to know what the different viewpoints are so they can make the best decision for themselves.
Well, when I say what I say, you disagree with it, you find out who you are. You see, if you really think that Marxism is good and you can kill as many people as you like, then that's what Marx taught. Just look at the numbers of murders. The fucking Chinese have killed more people than any of the people in history. They're the biggest racist organization going. Look at their thing on the Uyghurs. They lock them up. They kill them. They use them in experiments. They sell them. I've flown all over the world. I've seen Chinese concentration camps. Have you? So you can sit there in your little ivory tower Neiman Marcus store and say, oh, this is America. No, it's not. The reason the people break into Neiman Marcus and loot it is because that's the only way they get in there. Because the kids are loaded with student loan. Oh, but he got an education. No, they screwed him with student loan debt. No, tell me that's not true. Just look at the contract of a student loan debt is the worst possible debt. As a professional capitalist, I wouldn't touch a student loan debt. I'd rather pick up a steaming pile of horse shit before I did that.
Because you can't declare bankruptcy on student loans.
That's correct.
But you can do it on anything else.
You fucked the kids. And you know who got the money? Fucking communist school teachers at Harvard, Stanford, Columbia.
And that's one of the things. It's as soon as the federal government guaranteed student loans, they said, it doesn't matter how much money you charge the students. We promise you, we'll give you as much money as you want. As soon as you saw that happen, tuition rates went up.
And Obama was behind that.
But
Obama is from Hawaii. I know the family.
What happened before?
They're not poor people. That's a lie.
But it was started before Obama.
Oh, I know that, but I'm telling you, that's what I'm saying. In 1930, the Frankfurt School transported its flag over to Columbia University. There's a book called Tailspin by, I forget his name now, but he talks about how our Ivy League schools rip everybody off. Stephen Brill, he's a Yale graduate. He says higher education from Ivy League schools, the worst people possible. But everybody, oh, he went to Harvard. Look at all the stupid frickin' Asians. They won't let them in because Asians are too smart. They're smarter than white guys. So they discriminate. I said, well, you should have brought me in there. I brought the curve down.
Have you been allowed to speak at schools anytime recently?
No, I don't go to communist countries.
Communist countries.
Who was it that said, he says, if I knew where I was going to die, I wouldn't go there. So I'm always invited to go to schools. I said, no, I don't want to die today. Because you can't get past their opinion of capitalists. All a capitalist does is employ money and people. We create jobs, and we pay no taxes.
Are you evil for doing that?
Depends on the point of view. You want to pay taxes? Free country.
Do you have the ability now to help more people?
I did with a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad in my cash flow game. I teach basic accounting. Income statement, balance sheet, statement of cash flow. The lesson I learned really early on in life is my banker has never yet asked me for my report card. If I just borrowed another $316 million. Average guy can't even get a credit card. But to prove I could pay him back $316 million, I had to show my financials. They don't want to see my college degree. So I showed them, I said, okay, now I borrowed $316 million, tax-free. All that money's tax-free because it's debt.
But you're not using that money to go out and buy a fancy car.
No, I don't have to. Look, please hear on this. Okay, so let's say I borrow $1 million. I buy a property, it goes up to $10 million. I got $9 million in equity sitting there. If I need a new car, I just borrow it out. I buy a new car with tax-free money called debt. I have a Ferrari, a Rolls Royce, Toyotas, all tax-free because it's debt.
Well, if people want to learn more, they know where to start. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you have a new book coming out called The Capitalist Manifesto. Any last words you want to leave with people on things they should know, things they should be aware of, things they should do?
The reason we're in this world today is because people are so afraid of being triggered, having their feelings hurt. But that's postmodernist education, feelings and emotions. We don't dare question what our stupid school teachers tell us. They're not smart people. They're just people who are parrots. You know, Polly wants a cracker, Polly wants a cracker. They parrot what they've been told to parrot. It takes courage to speak out and get torn down. Just like those 343 firemen who climbed the stairs. They climbed to their death. I had friends who flew to their death, knowing it.
Wow. Well, thank you for your time, Mr. Kiyosaki. This was a very informative, exciting, and emotional driven. A lot of interesting, even I've read a lot of your books, and this was a lot to take in. So I encourage everyone watching this, watch it again, save this video. And if you want to learn more, you have Robert Kiyosaki on YouTube and all of your books, right?
Correct. And YouTube's a great place, but get both points of view. I listened to that. I don't know his name. He was an hour too long for me, but my skin crawled listening to him. You haven't lived until you get to kill people. And they were doing what they were told to do, we were told we were doing. But when you study history, you get the big picture of it. Socialists, Marxists, and communists have killed more people than any other form of political government in history. Just look at that. Americans have killed very few people.
Yeah, and you go back to the pursuit of happiness. A lot of people are just here on this earth just to be happy, and it's crazy how many things go on behind the scenes.
Yeah, let me tell you one more quick story,
sure,
really quickly. I hang out with a friend. He's a billionaire. Most of my friends are billionaires, close friends, No, but we're billionaires because of debt. We didn't sit there and save our pennies.
It would take a long time to save your way to $1 billion.
I know, because you get taxed to death. Savings are taxed.
Or inflation, yeah, and by the time you get there, it's not worth anything.
So anyway, we said, well, is there a crash coming? So I don't know. We're looking for a sign from God. So right after they kind of lifted all the things on COVID, we walked into this restaurant right down the street here in Scottsdale, and everybody was dressed in evening gowns, And he looked at me, and I looked at him and said, the crash is coming. I said, when you have all these old guys like me and their wives dressed in evening gowns, the end is near.
Because they're out there celebrating, partying?
We call it the evening gown theory of economics.
Explain that. What do you mean by that?
No. Just before every crash, people are the happiest. And then they get really depressed, and that's when the capitalists get rich, because everything goes on sale.
It's like Black Friday for investors.
Correct. And so everything's opposite. There's always two sides, there's three sides to every coin. Heads, tails, and the edge of the coin. And I stand on the edge. I said, well, it's boom and bust and all this. So, when Bitcoin went down to 3,000, I said, well, if it goes to zero, I said, no, it went to 6. And I started buying, it hit 7. I backed up the truck at 9, I put it in. So they said, well, is Bitcoin going to crash? I said, I don't give a shit. Because your profit is made when you buy, and you make more money in a crash. And I use debt. So it's opposite of a 401k.
So a crash is good for you. A crash is good for you.
It depends on the person. If Neiman Marcus was having a sale, everybody'd be in there. Neiman Markup, If they raised all the prices, who would go shop there? Nobody.
Unless you're giving a whole bunch of free money, right?
But anyway, everything is opposite. There's always three sides to a coin: heads, tails, and edge. And intelligence is found at the edge. And our trouble with opinion is you have to take a side. Okay?
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert Kiyosaki. This was a wonderful interview.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Keep up the good work.
Alternative medicine practitioners, however, have been promoting gold as essential for years, in some cases claiming to back it up with scientific studies. Not surprisingly, however, is the fact that without millions of dollars worth of clinical studies, mainstream medicine refers to this as pseudoscience. One thing that we can no doubt agree upon is the fact that our farm soils are totally depleted of this precious mineral, and if gold is an element needed in human nutrition, the only way we are going to get it is through supplementation. Historical uses gold has been used throughout Egypt and Asia by royalty for thousands of years, and they perhaps knew more about its benefits and how to use it than we do today. The use of gold in modern medicine began around 1890, when the distinguished German bacteriologist Robert Koch discovered that compounds made with gold inhibited the growth of the bacillus that caused tuberculosis. His work was honored with the Nobel Prize in Medicine. Gold has been used historically to treat digestive disorders, circulatory problems, obesity, and burns. It has been taken internally and applied topically to rejuvenate the skin. Here are some notable symptoms of gold deficiency: mental fog, forgetfulness, and low IQ. Sleep disorders, insomnia, and inability to relax. Overweight and obesity. Gastric and digestive disorders. Arthritis and other joint inflammations. Hypertension, high blood pressure, and muscle tension. Inability to deal with stressful situations. Reduced creativity. Removing toxic elements. Removing toxic elements. The body naturally eliminates toxins through the liver, kidneys, lungs, colon, lymph glands, and skin. However, due to the polluted condition of the world today, most people are running on toxic overload. Toxins are always acidic and create a low oxygen environment wherein bacteria and viruses thrive. Disease-causing microbes lead to all manner of diseases that reduce the life expectancy of humans and which are generally inflammatory and painful. Like a cut finger that will not heal when it is full of toxins, many bodily functions are hampered and sometimes completely stop working when an organ is too full of toxins. For example, a pancreas that is full of toxins will frequently stop producing insulin due to the fact that it is giving all of its energy to eliminating toxins that are threatening the very existence of the organ. When the toxins are removed, most often the pancreas will heal itself and once again start producing insulin. The same could be said for the thyroid or any other organ or gland that is on toxic overload. It is believed that gold increases the body's ability to eliminate these toxins.